Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a review of one of my favorite niche houses of all time, Amouage. And today we are going to be reviewing the overlooked, overshadowed, often forgotten about Amouage called Journeyman. And just real quick, I have to say, I'm going to complain a little bit about Amouage. Go figure. Who would have ever thought I would be complaining about Amouage, right, on my channel? But this bottle is one of my favorite bottles of all time. I think this is just such a beautiful, elegant, gorgeous. I mean, the color pops, the gold on the side. It's almost like dripping gold. If you've seen some of the advertisements, it almost looks like they've made the bottle spin so fast that the colors like blended together in this gold and red. It's just royal, regal, beautiful. The matching Swarovski crystal, fantastic. My bottle's made in the UK before they, shut that plant down. And if you go to the Amouage website and you just pull up Journeyman, the picture that they have of this bottle just makes the color of the bottle look so disgustingly bland and flat. And I mean, their website is an absolute mess. Everything about modern Amouage to me is just a mess. So, okay, enough complaining. Because before we get into this review of Amouage, which I will admit that I absolutely love this fragrance, and I've been waiting to do these reviews of my favorite Amouages for a long time because I really want to do them justice. I think they deserve justice to be done to them. We are going to do a very quick unboxing. Now, this is a sample, and I know that I have a couple samples that are coming to me, but I don't necessarily know which order they are coming, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm a little bit ignorant as to what is actually in the package. So we're going to find out together. So here we go. Let's see what you are. What are you, sir, package? I know you're a sample, but whose sample? There's a couple folks that are going to be sending me some samples soon that I would like to discuss on the channel with you guys, and so I'm curious which one you are. Okay, what are you? You are... What are you? I think you are a perfume from Russian Adam's stepbrother called Aton Perfumes. Yes, it is. It is Aton Perfumes indeed. And if you go on my channel, I have actually reviewed one of his fragrances. I believe it was called Roxbury. Don't quote me on that. I think I still have two other Aton fragrances to review. One's called Patchouli Lave and the other one's called Bright Lights, if memory serves. This is, I believe, his new one. And I think it's going to be called... What are you going to be called? You are going to be called Animalia. Look at the color of that juice. Beautiful. Animalia. Wow. Maybe I will wear you tomorrow as my scent of the day and get this party started right. Dare to be different is his little motto right there. So an up-and-coming, house. I think that this kid has a lot to learn from Russian Adam. I think he can really kind of take him under his wings, and I really like the aged patchouli that was used in Roxbury. If that was the one I reviewed, I forget which one. I think it was called Roxbury. But I do have one review of this house on my channel. If you look it up, I'm sure you'll find it. So yes, I'm excited to hear about this new one. Very interesting. So thank you. Thank you for the sample. Anton, thank you for the sample, sir. And... So let's talk about Journeyman, because it's interesting, Journeyman, because it came out in 2014, right? And it was released by two all-star perfumers, right? You've got Alberto Morillas and you have Pierre Negrin. Now, many people give Alberto Morillas a hard time. Obviously, I understand that. The guy has, if you go to Parfumo and look up Alberto Morillas, he has more pages than 99.9% of brands. I mean, it's like 25 pages long. It's unbelievable how many perfumes the guy has signed his name to. But through all that, he's created some gems. I mean, he created things like M7. He created Gucci Guilty Absolute, which I will absolutely give a full review to on my channel one of these days. Oh, I love this stuff. I mean, he's created some fragrances I love, I must admit. He absolutely has. Even though he's created some of the designer, generic, mass appealing stuff, he also has created some stuff I absolutely love. And this duo of perfumers, Pierre Negrin and Alberto Morillas, have teamed up multiple times with the House of Amouage. This is not the first time in Journeyman. They also teamed up for a fragrance that will be coming up very soon called Opus VII. And if you see, I have a sample and not a full bottle because I have like 50 mils of juice in samples of Opus VII. So even though I don't have a bottle, I feel comfortable in my my juice level of Opus VII. So that will be reviewed sooner or later on the channel. I'm going in order. So next up on the list is Opus VI, which is one of my favorite opuses from the whole line. So I want to make sure I do that one justice as well. And I think that maybe Opus VI is also a Alberto Morillas and Pierre Negrin combo. So they've worked together. They enjoy working together, obviously. And if you go to the Amouage website, let me just read you. Speaking of complaining about the Amouage website, if you go to the website, here is the pathetic product description. It says, Journeyman, portraying a journey of metamorphosis. This spicy and woody fragrance reveals a chiaroscuro of luminosity with a twist of intrigue. That's it. That's all you could come up with, along with the picture that doesn't nearly do the bottle justice, because this bottle is absolutely gorgeous. So they need to get their shit together on the website, in my opinion. The notes are Sichuan pepper, bergamot, cardamom, neroli, and bigarade. The juniper, heart of juniper incense, pure geraniol, tobacco leaves, and a base of tonka bean, cypriol, leather, and ambroxan. So I can tell you why this fragrance is overlooked, but first, I want to describe the journey of Journeyman. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. And actually, what's interesting is if you think about it as a journey, this kind of came out at the end of Amouage's journey through the traditional portion of Christopher Chong's sort of stay with Amouage, when they were making things that really harken back to traditional Amouage notes. A lot of incense, you know, sometimes there'll be oud. In this case, there's cypriol, but this earthy Middle Eastern type ingredients. And obviously, they stayed somewhat traditional. Once you got past Journeyman, so Journeyman actually is a metamorphosis for the brand, because after Journeyman, things started to get a little bit crazy. You know, they started to go in different directions. You saw things like Beach Hut and Sunshine Man and Myths, which Myths also has a little traditional side to it, obviously. But it was also a little crazy. You saw Imitation Man, right? These out-of-the-box fragrances, which I absolutely loved as well. I love the whole journey of Christopher Chong's stay at Amouage. Every single thing that he did while he was there, I'm a huge fan of even some of the fragrances that I don't necessarily like at first. I respected them, and some of them I ended up liking as time went on. And so this falls right at that journey metamorphosis phase of the House of Amouage, if that makes sense. So while that crappy little write-up on the blurb that was one sentence, you couldn't write more than one sentence about a product like this. I mean, I don't know, is it because Christopher Chong made it and the Fishman is jealous or what? I mean, this fragrance deserves more limelight to me. So here's how it opens. It opens up with a very astringent blast of sort of bitter citruses and cardamom. They say bigarade. I don't get very much bigarade. I definitely get this sort of bergamot, if you will. Well, I guess I do get bigarade, because I guess that's just a word for bitter orange. So I guess there is definitely this bitter feel to the citruses. And maybe the orange just adds a little bit of sweetness, more so than that orangey smell, if that makes sense. And one of the ingredients that really comes to you in the beginning, there's a couple, but Sichuan pepper basically adds this twist to the fragrance. Most people think about pepper, they think about black pepper. So when you're thinking black pepper, that would be something like Honor Man, which I'll also review on the channel off of samples, because I don't have a bottle of Honor Man either. But Honor Man is a perfect example of a heavy black pepper scent. Also Marc Jacobs Bang, which I'll also review one day. That's Discontinued Designer, a beautiful example of sort of this heavy black peppery opening, right? This opens up with Sichuan pepper, and Sichuan pepper to me always felt fiery. It felt spicier than regular pepper in a like almost chili Pekin-like way, and fiery, right? And that fiery sort of twist of the Sichuan pepper is a perfect representation of the bottle. So a lot of times when people ask me, is there a example of a beautiful Sichuan pepper opening? Yes, this and Tom Ford's Noir Anthracite. But Anthracite has this gray bottle that kind of looks like, concrete, if you will. This has a beautiful, vibrant color bottle that really represents that fiery Sichuan pepper. And it's a beautiful Sichuan pepper note, I must admit. It really does the fragrance justice. I think it in the opening, it's extremely vibrant. And, if you're someone who likes to study scent, like you study, for college, like if you're a scientist, you're going into your scientific method of breaking down scent, this is one that I can definitely say, put on the Sichuan pepper to sniff list. If you're that kind of person where you're like, hey, I want to smell one of the best fragrances of this ingredient and that ingredient, and you haven't smelled Journeyman yet, I would absolutely put it on the list. Now, one thing I should mention before we go any further, this is an older bottle. I already mentioned that, so I've never smelled the one that actually says, instead of saying Journey on the side, I've never smelled the one that actually says Journey on the front. So I don't know if this fragrance has gone through any reformulation issues or not. I usually always try to go for the older bottles of Amouage. You don't always need to go super old. I don't know if there even is a non-magnetic cap version of this. And from my experience, the difference between made in the UK and made in Oman was pointless to me. I got almost no difference between the two personally, but you can tell differences between different versions of the fragrance. If you go back older necessarily, let's say, you go back to Interlude, there is differences between, let's say, the snap cap and the magnetic cap, that kind of thing. But Oman versus UK, I wouldn't kill yourself to, if you found a great deal, let's say on a made in the UK bottle, go for it. It's fine, right? And so you smell that proper Sichuan pepper note that really sets the opening. And there's a very Arabic smelling cardamom note is the way that I describe it. And I absolutely love it. And I don't know if it's just because of my heritage. I've told you guys before, I was born in Jordan. I was born in Amman. My father is Arabic, and so I grew up around things like cardamom Arabic coffee or cardamom sweets, they'll put cardamom on top of baklava and all this stuff, right? And it's lovely, it's transportative, and there's something about this opening of that bitter citrus, Sichuan pepper, that fiery Sichuan pepper, and cardamom. And cardamom's the other note in the opening that I think trained noses will pick up probably from the beginning. Actually, that might even be the first thing that comes to your nose, is that cardamom. And it's funny because it plays as a contrast, because Sichuan pepper is, like I said, a fiery scent to me. And cardamom can be a cooling scent. So it's almost like, these two combining forces, but it works beautifully. And the inclusion of neroli, you might have mentioned or caught that neroli note when I was going through the note listing. I think that neroli note in here is a little bit of a master class in using ingredients, in a master stroke, if you will. Because usually in modern fragrances, when I smell neroli can come across as smelling like floor cleaner, it can come across as smelling soapy, but cheap soap, like, hospital soap, cheap hotel soap that they give you for free, right? There is this, there's almost like it's just a cheap smell. There's really no way to describe it. I was going to say it just feels like there's this fatalism to it. There's this, like, you've given up, that's it. This is good enough for me. Cheap soap is good enough, and you don't care to do any better. And this neroli is not that at all. Here it smells very opulent, and it adds just the right amount of extra bitter floral. So you have the bitter citrus, now you have this bitter floral that just sort of uplifts the fragrance. And before the heavier dried down materials start to join the party and come in, that neroli makes the fragrance feel fresh. Neroli is an ingredient that comes from the orange blossom plant, but it adds this usually this uplifting soapy freshness. Some people view it as green, some people view it as slightly honey-like, some people view the floral side of it, the white flower side of it, but it's definitely a fresher white floral. It's not like jasmine or anything like that. And it just sort of trumpets the arrival of the heavier materials, and it comes first. And if you just imagine this bitter, citrus, floral, spicy smell that just sort of dances on your skin, that's really the best way I can describe the scent in the opening. And I've tried to think about a way to describe just how this fragrance wears and what makes it different, other than just saying spicy or bitter or stuff like that, but really dancing off of your skin. Imagine, you know, the fragrance just sort of popping up and down on your skin, because that's how Journeyman wears on me. There's something, and I don't know if it's the fiery Sichuan, just imagine like the flames of a fire going up and down. They're never exactly the same height, right? Sometimes they're a little bit lower, sometimes they're a little bit higher, but they're never exactly the same height. It just pops off of my skin. And it's interesting because even though the fragrance pops off of my skin, it's not a beast. This is not a beast mode fragrance, okay? I will implore you right now, and this is one of the reasons I think this fragrance did not do as well, or didn't get as much hype, let's say, in Fragcom, is that when you're thinking of old Amouages, what are you thinking of? You're thinking of Jubilation 25, right? You're thinking of Interlude Man, which I showed earlier. This is a Pierre Negrin, by the way. This is a Pierre Negrin. The other Blue Beast, Opus 11. These two are absolute monsters. They are huge fragrances that last forever. The snap cap of Interlude Man lasts all day. All day, you'll smell it the next morning on your skin almost. It is unbelievable longevity, and it's huge. The depth of that fragrance is unreal. This is not that, okay? This is more formal in a way. It's not a beast. Someone left a comment and they said, I don't always need a beast mode fragrance because I am not a beast, I'm a man. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting kind of take on it. But it does pop off my skin, but it's a very enjoyable wear. It's just the right level of loud for me, okay? Some people will tell you this is a huge beast mode, you can't wear this in summer. Bullshit. You can wear this this is any season wear for me. Probably the tobacco, cypriol, leather aspects make people think this is a winter wear, but in reality, I think this works just as well in the heat because of the citruses and that Sichuan pepper and the neroli. And on top of all of that, there is, so with that green orange blossom neroli-like smell, the freshness, right, announcing that wearability, there are other fresh notes that join the party. So I mentioned juniper berries earlier, and the juniper berries I think really add to the sort of invigorating dance floor feel of this fragrance. Dancing off of your skin is what I mean. The visual from earlier, right? So juniper berries are used to spriten up gin, okay? And if you think about gin, just imagine like a gin and tonic, right? Imagine a little bit of that fizz, that bubbliness, that energetic, invigorating like smell. And that's really what you get with the freshness of the neroli and the freshness of the juniper berry working together. And then, of course, all of the other things from the opening I mentioned, the fiery Sichuan pepper, the bitter citruses, the metallic bergamot, the cardamom, which is very Arabic smelling for some reason to me. Very Arabic smelling cardamom. And that's the visual of the opening. Now, as the clock ticks past about half an hour to an hour, okay, as this cooks on your skin a little bit, as you go through your journey, pun intended, it becomes more woody and smoky. Comes woodier and smokier, okay? But imagine like the beginnings of incense or frankincense being burned. Imagine the smoke tendrils from the frankincense just starting to sort of enter the air, right? It's not a big, huge blast of black smoke or anything like that. This is sort of a very gentle and delicate smoke. It's well proportioned. It is, I'm sure Pierre Negrin and Alberto Morillas purposely put the volume exactly here. This is a fragrance where, like, if you wanted to wear an Amouage, but you wanted to wear this to maybe like a black tie event or somewhere where you're meeting a bunch of people, you don't want to wear something like this. You don't want to choke everyone out when they come near you. They're like, oh my God, you know, what are you wearing? This is dosed in the way where that incense, it's definitely there. It has the Amouage DNA. But I don't believe people have it right where, you know, they say that this is a huge fragrance. Maybe in the beginning, but it really does settle down to me. This fragrance settles down. I wore this as my scent of the day here. 6-7 hours in, it was in the very, very late stages of the dry down. You know, very late stages. Very muddled, Hard to make out anything except for just this sort of, you know, leathery tonka dry down, right? And the heart and soul of the fragrance had disappeared already by 6 or 7 hours, if that makes sense. And this is one of the older bottles, right? So I don't think Journey was ever necessarily a beast. It wasn't meant to be a beast. It's a slow burner, okay? It's a quieter burner, all right? So you're not putting 2 or 3 coals on top. You're just putting 1 coal on top with Journeyman, if that makes sense. And the smoke is not meant to make you cough. It's not a big plume of smoke. It's not being in a smoky tent. It's not being in an opiate tent. It's nothing like that. There is also a smell which feels like pine oil. All right, so it feels kind of like this green coniferous smell in the background. All right, in the background, this is not polo green. I don't want you to get the impression that this is polo green or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that there's a little bit of a coniferous, piney feel, and that can come from a couple places. I think it adds to the woody side of the fragrance, and what's interesting is as it emerges, you'll notice there's no woods in this fragrance. There's no cedar wood, there's no sandalwood, there's no guaiac wood, there's none of that listed. Maybe there's little slight doses here and there. Excuse me. Sorry to do that in your ear, but there is this general earthiness of cypriol, which is adding to that Middle Eastern feel. But that pininess can be a couple things, okay? So, number one, that pininess can basically come from the frankincense resin. Sometimes frankincense resin can come across as smelling lemony and piney, okay? The other place it can come from is juniper berries, all right? And the juniper berries can actually give off this woodiness themselves. Believe it or not, if they're dosed high enough, juniper berries can give off this woodiness, this coniferous, piney woodiness. And that's my guess. I'm guessing it's a mixture of those two, right? And then the earthiness of the cypriol gives your brain kind of images of wood. Even though there's no wood on here, you have the feel. So this is probably categorized as like a spicy, smoky scent. I think that would be a fair categorization because the smoke in this comes from a couple places. The frankincense resin, but also the tobacco, which is one of the heavier notes we're going to talk about later. And my guess is that for people that have critiqued this fragrance or that do not like Journeyman, my guess is there's a couple things that maybe put them off. When they were first smelling it, they were hoping for maybe like a out and out Middle Eastern copy of like an oud fragrance or something. This is not that. So the cypriol gives you sort of hints, okay, of this Middle Eastern feel, but this is a unique fragrance. It's kind of its own thing. I haven't really smelled anything else that smells like this, to be honest with you. One person mentioned that there's a fragrance from 2013, which is a year before this fragrance, called OG by Mirko Buffini. I've never smelled anything from that brand, never even heard of that brand. Mirko Buffini Firenze. And it was called OG. Apparently it's still in production, and it came out a year before this. Some people compare it to that. I've never smelled it, to be honest with you. And I can't think of anything that really smells exactly like Journeyman to me. Journeyman is unique by nature. But the detractors from this fragrance will probably say something like it's synthetic, okay? And it definitely is synthetic feeling. But that's not always a bad thing. There's a couple things that I think are used in here that give people that synthetic feel. Number one, there is a note of geraniol, okay? And geraniol gives this rose-like smell, basically. Almost like, think of a metallic rose, okay? Imagine like a metallic rose, which actually goes pretty well with the color. Just imagine this metallic rose blended in here somewhere, in this haze of red fieriness, okay? Fiery is a really good word for it, for Journeyman. And the essential oil of geraniol is basically found in a number of plants, including rose, palma rose, and tea tree. And so, but it is, I think, a synthetic kind of creation in this composition. And the other one is ambroxan. And ambroxan is, of course, the main ingredient in your favorite blue scent from God knows. Pick your favorite blue scent. You don't even have to pick one. I just grabbed Sauvage Parfum because it's what I have. It's my one blue scent. Sorry about that. I'm going to take a sip of water so I don't cough in your ear here. So if you've listened to Rich Mitch when it comes to blue scents, he basically says you only need one. And I kind of agree with him on that. I don't agree with him on you only need one oud though, or one oud, rose oud. So you can see, even though we are so close in taste, we disagree on some things sometimes. But I agree with him on the blue scent. You don't need Dylan Blue and Bleu de Chanel and Sauvage, and it's just overkill. And Roja's blue scent, Elysium, you don't need all that. It's overkill. They basically all do the same thing, the synthetic ambroxan blue smelling thing. And so there is ambrox in here. And I think that ambroxan, you would expect it to be this fragrance that has this huge throw, okay? It doesn't. The ambroxan, I think, makes it feel maybe a little bit more, how do you say, like appealing in the dry down is my best way of putting it. I think it is a little bit more appealing, but I think some people some hardcore frag heads could come in here and make the case that this is not, it's a little bit synthetic and it's not worth the 300 and what are they selling it for now? $360 for 100 mils, right? And so that could be a detractor's argument. Now, what's interesting is as the fragrance dries down, two of my favorite notes emerge, okay? But they make a little bit of a cameo appearance, okay? They come on stage, but they never steal the show. They are a little shy in this release. One is tobacco, or as the website of Amouage says, tobacco leaves. And the other one is leather, okay? So those are the two. And it's funny because I could see the critics saying that this is a tobacco fragrance that doesn't smell like a tobacco. It's a leather fragrance that doesn't smell like a leather. And you know what? There's truth to both of those statements. The leather is very soft. Sometimes you'll kind of pick it up as it dries down. But never would I come out and expect, this is, if you're buying this expecting this to be Bel Ami or Trussardi Uomo like I reviewed yesterday, you're going to be sadly mistaken. This is not that at all. This is much more focused on the spices and that, imagine that fiery, spicy aspect that I was mentioning earlier. And the tobacco just sort of weaves its way into the wispy incense of that's being burned. So just imagine the incense trail heading up to the heavens, right? And the tobacco just kind of joining in, right? And sometimes when you smell, you think you're smelling that incense. Sometimes when you smell, you think you're smelling maybe whiffs of tobacco smoke. Sometimes you smell a little bit of that dry tobacco leaves, like the website says. And definitely dry. There is a little bit of sweetness in here, but it is tempered, very mildly tempered, okay? The tonka bean adds a little bit of sweetness. I think the geraniol, they say pure geraniol on the Amouage website, whatever that means, pure geraniol. But I think that the geraniol adds a little bit of that sweet floral, rosy floral undertone, right? You know, geranium floral undertone, if you will. But it never out and out smells like a tobacco. It never smells like a hardcore tobacco. Obviously, there's tobacco in here. But it's not like, you know, if you want a proper tobacco, like if you're expecting something like this, which I'll review, this is one of my favorite tobaccos, Aramis Tobacco Reserve, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Again, this is not Trussardi Uomo, it's not Bel Ami, it's not Aramis Tobacco Reserve as far as tobacco goes. So it's none of those things. You know, it's not kind of the best in class tobacco. If you came to me and said, Ramsey, I want to smell real tobacco fragrances, which one should I go for? This would probably be lower on the list because this fragrance is a entire composition created by Pierre Negrin and Alberto Morillas to me. So each one of the notes kind of plays its part, and you may give them a hard time for creating this synthetic-like fragrance. But what I really love about it is that if you know me and you know sort of my taste lately, I've been going towards the natural stuff because when I smell something like this is a wish list, unicorn wish list. I would love to add to the collection one day. Oud Zen by Areej Dore, right? And this is a beautiful real oud. And God, so unbelievably good. And I've been going towards stuff like this because I've found that many times when perfumers are trying to recreate the real thing using these materials, which, you know, their job is to be a magician. They can't use real oud, it's too expensive, right? Or in huge doses like Russian Adam is doing, so they have to recreate the accord, right? And many times I give them a hard time. Sometimes they don't do it right or it's not the same, and I've just been going for the real thing lately. That's just been what I've been craving. This fragrance is the opposite of that. This fragrance is two master perfumers putting their heads together and creating something that is unique and different and amazing, and it fits the bill. It fits exactly what Christopher Chong was looking to build. And it does it in sort of this Amouage way that stays true to the heart and soul of the company Amouage and who they are, right? And so I really have to give them their props for creating something like this, because this deserves more talk, I think, in the community. And I think, honestly, as time goes on, it's funny because I bet you if Amouage discontinued this, all of a sudden everyone would be talking about, oh, the good old days of Amouage, how amazing it was when Christopher Chong made stuff like Journeyman. And when you can get it now, it's available, you know, people don't talk about it. And the other thing is, it's 10 years old and it's 2024. So it's its 10-year anniversary, which is crazy to think about that. But a lot of people in today's modern culture, they want the newest thing. I want the newest Amouage. I want Purpose or whatever the other crap that they're selling nowadays is. And they just overlook these. You know, these are seen as like the old men perfume. You know, these are the stuffy, musty, and I disagree. I review these because, and the reason I've taken so much time to review my favorite Amouages is because I think they deserve the attention and time. And I don't know if you can see, you probably can't because this bottle is not see-through at all. But I bet you I've probably used a good 15, 20 mils. I bet you my juice is like right about here. Which, you know, like I've said, in a collection like mine, I use these Amouages. I love them. I love wearing them to work. Like today, it was a beautiful day to wear this. It was in the 50s, rainy, perfect weather. Absolutely perfect for this. And it just shines. You know, if you're dressed nice, this fragrance is that extra elegant touch. This is a boss fragrance to me. This is definitely a boss scent because it's something that you can wear around the average public, but it smells so... It smells so unique and exotic. There's definitely something exotic about it because it has those Arabic touches, like I mentioned earlier, those Middle Eastern touches. The Cypriol doesn't give off actual proper oud. You know, I'm not bashing this for not smelling like real oud because they're not claiming there's real oud in here. They're just using that Cypriol accord to create this Middle Eastern earthy vibe. And it works brilliantly. So I feel like as hard as I am on Alberto Morillas sometimes, it's good to give him his flowers. And he's going to get more because I'm going to review some of his all-time best creations, I think. And, you know, this is, I think, an Amouage that just deserves more of that spotlight. Maybe the spotlight comes from like the fire shadow reflecting off of it instead of the actual spotlight, because Amouage is spotlighting whatever the hell they're spotlighting now. But as they actually call this a woody spicy on the Amouage website, which is very interesting because there's no woods in here. There's no woods used. So it's interesting that they call it a woody spicy. But, you know, I have to say that this is one I think that really gets overlooked and deserves more love from the community. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, if you have experience with Journeyman, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you've smelled the new one with the Journeyman written on the front, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But as always, excuse me, I appreciate everyone watching, commenting, all the stuff you all do. You know, the back and forth, getting the comments from you guys. I try to respond to every single comment, which, as far as I'm concerned, I have been able to do that. And with as big as we've grown, that has become more and more of a challenge, but I love doing it. And so, you know, if you write me, I will write you back. Thank you to Anton from Aton Perfumeries for sending me this sample. I can't wait to get to know this new one. Animalia, maybe I'll wear it tomorrow as my scent of the day, or tonight and tomorrow as my scent of the day, and we'll see how it goes. And I'll do a quick early impression video for you guys if you're interested in this one. So appreciate everyone watching as always. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.